Here we
Joker
go.
Folie A Deux review and spoilers. If you haven't seen it, well, some people say it's worth it. Some people say it's not. We are clearly divided on this. From everything from X to discussing film to everybody else. This film has definitely split it down the middle. So like that, I'm gonna give my review right out of the gate and talk about some things that I did like, what I didn't like, and then just my overall, my overall feeling about the entire movie. So this is I had to write all of this down because it was a lot in that movie that I wanted to unpack. So I'm gonna go ahead and get right to it. So basically, my initial thoughts, that it was a film that was basically it had the makings of a great storyline involving Arthur Fleck and Harley Quinn and their descent into madness that is Gotham. But a poorly executed and it quickly devolved into a slow paced story that felt less like the Joker film and more like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Now, I don't know if you guys ever seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson. Great film, great film. But that Joker 2 is what that felt like to me. So, and it also felt like it could have served as a film all by itself. This film, you didn't need the first Joker. This film could have literally been all by itself and probably would have done better if it was a film that was billed that way. But he Todd Phillips, again, this is the controversial part. Nobody really knows what he was actually thinking when he made this film. Some people say there was meddling, some people say there was not, and said this was all him from an artistic standpoint. This was him through and through. So they're saying that it was a middle finger to people who didn't like the first Joker, I guess, because it was, an offshoot basically, from the original, Joker that we all know. So, or a couple of Jokers we all know, but yeah. So what I liked, obviously the visuals were stunning. They still kept that dilapidated, decaying Gotham City look to it. I love that they still stuck to that. And what was it? It was still what, 1981? Should have been still 1981, right? When
It
it
would have
took
been.
place. So yeah.
I think it was a year or two after the first movie.
Or was it a year or two after that? 83? So 82. 82. Okay, yeah. So the performances of I didn't have a problem with the performances at all. I thought that Joaquin Phoenix was obviously pretty good as the Joker, as Arthur Fleck. Um, Lady Gaga, I liked the fact that he took that avenue with her. So she was more subdued. She was more laid back. Obviously, still that same Harley Quinn, but not as wiry and not as hyper and not as psychotic and not as. I like the fact that they did that with her. So I was interested to see how they took Arthur and made him the Joker and her as Harley Quinn. I wanted to see what that was going to be like, what that part of the storyline was going to be like. Um, Obviously, based on the reviews, they deviated from that, and it was basically Todd Phillips' middle finger again to the fans. Again, we don't know really why he did it that way. Some say, like I said, some say it was just it's his thing. He wanted to do it. Now, that's the question, though. The question is, did we watch the first film not really realizing that's what he was doing all along, and it was on us that we didn't see that? Or did he really write the first Joker and it felt like he was going on a storyline that he was going to take? The second movie was going to bring in Harley Quinn, introduce her origin story, and somehow they were going to run Gotham. She was going to break them out. She was going to do something to continue what that first storyline was. And then if he wanted to close it off right there, fine. If he wanted to open that up with his what is it, the Black Label DC, if that was what they were going to do, then I wanted to see that, what they were actually going to do with that, maybe even possibly get a third film out of it. But they totally flipped the script. So the question is, the first film, did we blindly go into that film not really seeing that he was taking the avenue of just it was Arthur Fleck having a psychological breakdown all along? There is no Joker. There was never a Joker. Or did he really fool us and make us think that that movie was going to lead into a storyline involving Arthur Fleck and Harley Quinn and that alternate, Joker and Harley, Clown Prince of Crime. That's the question. So,
It's an interesting question. From my perspective, I don't think they ever intend. I don't think Todd Phillips ever really intended to make this movie. I think when you look at Joker, the first one, it was it was perfect the way it was. It closed up that story. There was no need to continue on. It was a one and done, and that's the way I think Joker was always supposed to be done.
So you think WB pushed him into that?
Oh, for sure. I think
it was a cash grab.
When the money with the money that the first one made, there is no way that they weren't going to greenlight a sequel. They were always going to greenlight a sequel after it made over $1 billion. The question I have is this the sequel is this the sequel that they should have greenlit?
Right.
That's my question.
We're gonna get in there. So I'm gonna finish up here. So what I didn't like now, so like I said, I like the performances, the acting, even the storyline to a certain degree was good. Like I said, but it felt like it should have been a standalone story. If this story, like let's just say you've never heard of the Joker, right? And suddenly Todd Phillips says, I got a film coming out called Joker Folie A Deux. And it's going to have Harley Quinn origin story and Joker or, all that. Or Joker will be already, he's billing it basically as Joker has already, or Arthur Fleck has already terrorized the city. He's already killed Murray. He's already done this. And then they just go into it as a movie and sell it as a psychological drama versus what they were billing it as. So, because it wasn't the Joker, you know what I mean? It wasn't a Joker film, like Rox was saying earlier. It did not feel like a Joker movie, but yet here we are billing it that way. So now, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the first Joker movie have the DC label? It had the DC label, right?
Yes, it did.
It did. Now really? This one does not, and it's just a WB film. So that's pretty weird. Yeah, okay. When you watch it, you'll see what I'm talking about. But what I did not like, and here comes the spoiler, the Looney Tunes short intro waxed that right out. I couldn't stand it. They had a Looney Tunes like intro. It was a cartoon and Looney Tunes style with the Joker going nuts and all that other kind of stuff. And it was like, what, 5-10 minutes, Rock? Something like that?
Charles, you're going to be mad at me, but I found that more entertaining than the rest of the fucking film.
I'm sorry, bro. He, you know what, Rox? You earned a drop there. You earned a drop.
Here's Johnny.
Yeah, look, hey, Rox was, as soon as that part came on, Rox was like,
I'll get into that in a bit.
But yeah, so that first part, that let me know, except for what Rock says, obviously, but that let me know that, oh no, this is not going to be good. This is going to be horrible, man. So I didn't like that at all. I just felt like it was just way too on the nose. And I know they were trying to play up that whole, this is a crazy psychological whatever, but it just didn't work for me. What I would have changed in that scenario is I would have just started it out with like long, wide shots of Gotham. So just pictures of the decay, pictures of the people, like series of shots like that before I went in on the Joker when he was locked up in the actual cell. That's what I would have done. I would have waxed that whole Looney Tune things out. It was very slow paced. It was, in my opinion, it was slower than the Batman.
Really?
Yes.
I'm not kidding,
I agree 120%.
Pacing.
What about the music?
Okay, yeah, we're gonna get to that. But the pacing in this film was dragging behind. It was now when you got to the court scenes, they became a little bit more dramatic, a little bit more fast paced. But the beginning of that film, man, and then like you're like, when are we gonna do something here? So the pacing was off. So I like the Joker better than I did the Batman, but I like the Batman than I do Folie A Deux. So it was bad. So too many musicals for me. Arthur was way too in his head, too much that it took away from the plot of the film. It felt like him being inside his head with Harley had nothing to do with moving the plot forward as far as him being on trial and whether or not he was going to be free. It took me. See, the first movie, when he was imagining he was with what's her name, Jazzy Beats, his his neighbor. When he was imagining all that and imagining being on stage with Murray and at his at his studio and all that, that made more sense because it served the plot. It served who he really was. But this whole thing about him in Dreamland and the buildings and singing with her, I didn't like any of it at all.
So what were your thoughts on it being a musical, Charles?
I didn't like it.
You didn't like it at all?
It was too much. It was just way too much music. I didn't like it. I didn't like it. And then finally, the last thing I did not like, all of a sudden, the third act just fell apart because no one wanted him anymore, wanted to be a part of him anymore, because he finally admitted that the Joker was a fallacy and that I did this and this was all in my head. That part, soon as he mentioned that and then Harley Quinn just up and bounced, that whole thing just went down, bro. That whole third act was whack after that. And then there was an explosion, trying to I'll say some rogues gallery elements on the streets, broke him out of the courtroom with bombs. So they got him out. He decided, no, I can't do this. Got out of the car. The police got him, took him back to Arkham, and then he got shanked. And then homie cuts his face, making people believe that might be a Joker. And I was like, so that's how we doing this now, huh? We don't really care anymore. We're just, here you go. Just make whatever you want to make. And if you want to come back, we don't really care. We're already $40 billion in debt. But it doesn't matter. Let's just do this. And from an Oscar-winning performance on a film that I found fascinating, especially because, like you said, Rox, if they were either they leave it the way it was, or they finish that storyline, picking up with him talking to the psychiatrist, they leading up to
Dude,
him.
They technically retcon that. Did you pick up on how they technically retcon that?
And this is the problem. This is what fooled everybody, and I think this is the problem. If you were gonna do that shit, you shouldn't have had a Bruce Wayne. You shouldn't have had him meet Bruce Wayne.
But that's how you know they never had any intentions of actually making this film, because they had to retcon certain elements from the first one to have this make sense.
Yeah. That's what made people believe, oh shit, they're gonna make a part 2. He's gonna have Harley Quinn in it. They're gonna be running Gotham and all this other kind of stuff. Wasn't anything like that at all. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest is what that was. A psychotic Jack Nicholson. I know. That's what that was.
That movie, The Cuckoo's Nest. So I know.
I've seen One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and it's much more enjoyable than this, in my opinion.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So I didn't hate the film. I don't want to give that impression that I hated it, because like all movies, if you're gonna call yourself a true connoisseur, you got to watch movies and you got to digest everything that you can see in them. But if it's too much for you, it's like taking an Ambient, Rocks. I understand, bro. I don't fault you either way.
I fell asleep twice. Okay, not once, but twice. I fell asleep in a theater watching this movie, in a loud ass theater with a bucket of popcorn in my lap, a Coke in my hand, and I fell asleep twice.
Let me tell you what I was most interested in. Harley Quinn. And here's why. And this is the storyline that I would have, if I'm going to make a part 2, it's going to directly be off of the elements from the first movie. So Harley Quinn, he basically asked her, what do you want? They're together now. And what is it that you really want? She said, I want to build a mountain. That right there could have been the jumping off point for her saying, I want you to be free. And no matter how that's done, whether you're found guilty or not guilty, I'm getting you out of this shithole. And we're gonna run this. We're gonna run this city. That's where I was hoping they would go with that. When she said that I want to build a mountain, That's what I would have done. I would have taken that line and literally put him on trial, just like he was on trial, found his ass guilty, and while he was on his way back to Arkham, have Harley Quinn and some of them rogues that blew up the courtroom take over the transport, because it was only three of them. It was a van and two police cars, and one police car in front and one police car in the back, right? And then there was a van that was transporting him back to Arkham. So I would have done something like that, found him guilty. He's going to go to real prison. We're going to transport him back, sign him out, and get him to prison. Break him out of the transport. There's Harley. There's more rogues. There, she's got a team now ready to break him out. And that's what I would have done. So if you're going to make a part 2 to this movie, make it a part 2 about the actual Joker. And then follow it up with some sort of, after credit scene or post credit scene, or of them two fully fledged, Harley Quinn, the Joker, ended on a laugh, him laughing maniacally, and boom. That would have been perfect.
But that would make sense.
Hashtag Rock Talks fell asleep.
Twice.
Don't forget the twice.
You gotta update it. Update that hashtag, dude.
Yeah.
Ross fell asleep twice.
Here's my overall thoughts of the film, and then I'm going to give my review. Okay. So this is what I said, because again, I had to write this down. It was too much of a musical. The film felt like a misdirection that took the audience who loved the first Joker in a different direction. It felt more like a drama reminiscent of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Arthur suddenly changing his mind about who he was, which took away from the gravitas of the first film that could have potentially set him up as a DC Black Label Joker with Harley Quinn in an alternate timeline. Random psycho kills Arthur because Arthur declared he was not the Joker. That was a poorly executed ending. If it was Todd Phillips' intention to make the Joker an allegory based on Arthur Fleck's psychosis and not an actual future criminal in Bruce Wayne's rogues gallery, then the first film storyline should have been written to serve that purpose versus making a film that was written in such a way that felt like it was setting up an alternative origin story for Arthur Fleck's Joker. And there it is.